transformation of banking. Today, we embark on a journey from the chaotic currents of change to the clear horizons of opportunity. Our sector stands at a pivotal crossroads, marked by rapid innovation and shifting paradigms.
ようこそ
Banking began over 3,000 years ago, evolving from simple loans to more complex financial systems. The Renaissance ushered in the era of modern banking, laying foundations for centralized institutions. The 20th century brought technological breakthroughs, transforming banking operations and services. The digital revolution has made banking accessible anytime, anywhere.
Accepted.
Today, we stand on the brink of a new era. With AI, blockchain, and digital currencies reshaping our financial future. From ancient ledgers to digital wallets, banking continues to evolve, driving towards a more connected and accessible financial world. It is time to move from chaos to clarity. Are you ready for what lies ahead?
Give it up for Jim Marous.
Good morning. You know, I get up here on shag carpeting, I'm thinking, what could go wrong? I'm not wearing heels, though. You know, last night we were told we should make connections. And at least in my lifetime, the best way to make connections, usually, is with stories. By telling stories, people remember more about what you're saying, but also you learn from other people's stories about what's happened in their lives. So I was thinking last night, I said, what story would I have about branches? And then I remembered, November 17th, 1980. I had worked for National City Bank for about 5 years, had moved from being the branches to actually being the marketing department. Marketing department consisted of product and advertising. And as a young marketer, I was asked, could you do a branch opening for us, our 52nd branch at National City Bank? I said, that sounds like a fun deal. What could go wrong? Well, we find out very quickly that things can always happen unexpectedly that can change not only the course of what you're doing that day, but in a way the course of your thought pattern going forward. So this branch promotion happened, as I said, on November 17th of 1980, right 10 days before Thanksgiving. We thought in order to promote the branch, we'd give away coupons for 20-pound turkeys, which had a value of about, I think, $20 back then. We had 100 coupons. The first 100 people in the branch would get a turkey. Well, it must have been a really popular promotion because when I got there at 6:30 in the morning, the branch opened at 9. There were over 50 people in line. That was good. I'm thinking, I'm a pretty good marketer. I'm doing okay here. And then more people got in line. We had already over 100 people. And we're thinking, hey, they can count. We don't have to count. And then it started raining at about 7:45. And being a person that's a people pleaser, and being a person that said, oh my gosh, these people, you don't want them to stand in line for a turkey. Let's give out the coupons while they're in line. That way they can go home and not get wet and everything goes well. Great idea, I thought. So we passed out the 100 coupons. And they went home. And another 100 people got in line. So we're sitting here without anything to give them, and there happened to be a grocery store right behind us, so I said, what I'll do is I'll get more coupons. I was able to get 80 more coupons for turkeys. Thought like a great idea, except that there were at least 20 people that counted the people in line. And they wanted turkeys because they're getting wet. So I had to go back to the grocery store, and I actually brought 4 people with me, and we took out 20 turkeys out of the frozen food department to give turkeys to people in line when they got into the branch. Part of me said that was the best marketing promotion ever. We had more people than we ever expected, and they all got what they wanted. On the other hand, I was known as the turkey man for the next 3 years, worked for National City Bank. And my boss, who was my boss at that time, decided on the day before Thanksgiving to deliver a live turkey on my desk. And I don't know if you've ever seen a live turkey. They're the dirtiest, ugliest animals in the world. but it inflated my standing as the turkey man. So what happened? So you think back, and I go, well, maybe that defined part of not only what I was as a marketer, but also my thought about branches. You know, branches, dead or alive, or dead and alive. I like branches. I like the branch system. They play a role. The challenge is knowing where they fit today. Back in 1980, we didn't even have ATMs in 1976 when I started with National City Bank, and I introduced the first ATM. And what do? We actually had people deposit money into their account, showing that you can make deposits as well as getting withdrawals. And there was a promotion that one of the deposits would hit a jackpot. We don't have to do that anymore. All these different channels we thought would replace branches. We thought ATMs would replace people in branches. We thought mobile banking and online banking would do that. We thought, you know, everything we said, we actually sold them internally as being ways to replace people. But in today's world, digital now is a primary channel for 9/10 of our customers, with branches being a supplemental channel. The challenge is, how many do you need? What do they look like? What should they do? I'll tell you right now that as much as we usually talk about having the interactions with others, to talk to others, interact, hear their stories, determine what branch, what strategy you should go forward with, I will tell you right now that every one of your strategies has to be defined by the kind of company that you are and not by what a company is somewhere else. I usually refer to the GPS of financial services saying, you know, you can't get to where you're going simply by saying, I want to go south or I want to go east. You have to really define your destination. Nothing could be more true than in branching. If you don't define what you're trying to achieve, you'll never know if you get there. And that will make the whole process flawed. We can't use outside research to define whether or not we should have branches, because most research today is still flawed. We ask people, do you want branches? Do you use branches? We even bias the research by, it's going to be hard for me to see, but how many of you have new account opening processes that are less than 5 minutes for the consumer? Show of hands. Okay, so we have maybe 5%. We find that the number of organizations have a digital new account opening process of less than 5 minutes is right around 10 to 12%. So what happens? So the customer tries to open an account. It's a long process. It's tedious. It may even require you to come into the branch. If I'm a branch employee that's frightened by what digital may do to my job, and a customer comes into the branch, that immediately becomes a branch new account opening. It's no longer, there's no sign that this person started on the digital channel. So part of the reason why the beginning process of working with a branch is still pretty high is partially because we make the process non-tenable from a digital perspective. But we still need branches. I go into my branch. I don't go into my personal branch because it's not local. But my business branch I go into, but usually it's because I have a challenge, a problem. I will tell you today, because of a transfer not taking place, I'd be going into my personal branch today if I could, because the money didn't get deposited like it was supposed to. So I'm going in for different reasons than I did before. I'm not doing transactions. I was thinking the other day about the fact that most branches still have a big vault in the branch. I'm thinking, why? You know, there's not much cash transactions going on, even on the retail sector. So in order to determine where you should be with your branch strategy, you have to address the elephants in the room. Number one, the use of branches is really going down while the use of digital is going up. That doesn't mean branches are dead or even that they're dying, but it means that they have to change. We also have to realize that our employees in the branches are scared to death about open banking, AI, about digital banking, because they're fearful of their jobs. They're not going to do things to hurt you intentionally, but they will protect their own destiny. We need communication with branch employees across the entire sector to make them feel comfortable in where they are. What are other challenges we have? We have technology that's coming so fast. We have open AI and we have generative AI that really determines What's going to happen going forward? I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, about how does generative AI impact branches? So if you're looking at what you should do with your branch today, in order to be resilient, you need to look at the elephants in the room and say, I have to look beyond today. I have to look beyond tomorrow. I have to look to the future to determine, what is the future going to look like? What can I do that's going to give me flexibility to change on the fly in the future, 6 months, 12 months, 36 months from now? You know, the consumers' challenges and their expectations are evolving quickly. Obviously, during COVID, they evolved significantly from being really more branch-based to be home-based. We learned how to do everything digitally. We learned how to order groceries. We learned how to get our personal care products from Amazon. We even learned more about what was going on with streaming services. How many of you have a streaming service for your TV as opposed to cable? Okay, virtually everybody. So what does that mean? It means we're continually being exposed to very high engagement and personalized experiences. Before I came on this trip, I was going to take my Jeep in to get serviced. And I mentioned to my wife, I said, I can't remember the Jeep dealer I went to get it done, because it's in a different state. We go to Florida during the wintertime. But I said, I keep on hearing these commercials for this other dealership that's not the one I want to go to. And I said, I really would like to know what that is. And I look over her shoulder, and on TV during the news comes a commercial for the dealership I already knew about, followed immediately by the dealership I wanted to know about. 2 Jeep dealership commercials, one after the other. I don't think that's just by coincidence. The TV was listening to me. And what's interesting is listening is a skill we all have to get better at. We aren't listening enough. I used this saying, I mentioned to somebody last night, that how does my dry cleaner know more about me than my financial institution? When I come in, they know exactly what I want to do, when I want it back by. I even had a dry cleaner that said, is this your dry cleaning? Is there something, there's a doctor's smock here. And I explained that, no, we were doing a party for my niece. She had become a doctor, and that's it. But all of a sudden it hit me, I go, my bank, I could do a transaction that was way out in left field. And I'm not too sure if my bank would say, Jim, is that really you? Because consumer expectations are changed, we have to continually ask them what they want, but not by saying, do you want us to take away branches? Do you want us to reconfigure branches? We have to get deeper than that. We have to find out the way they want to interact in all channels. We have a lot of fragmentation in the marketplace right now. We have competitors we never thought we'd have. Not just the Googles, not just the Chimes, not just the Apples, but competitors like Nordstrom's, the gas station, Walmart. How many of you have have closed a major primary financial relationship in the last 5 years? Let me see hands. Anybody? Primary financial relationship. That's 2 maybe. How many of you have opened a non-traditional financial relationship without using your primary bank in the last 2 years? Almost everybody. Guys, this is silent attrition. This is happening in all your financial institutions. Consumers are making choices every day by, how do I get this or that service at any financial institution quickly and easily? I use Acorns to make savings, automatic savings always being made. I use PayPal to pay my contractors and get payments from my subscribers. If you ask me who my primary business relationship is with, I'd say PayPal. Now, why is that? Because PayPal continually offers me bridge loans based on how they know my transfers and money back and forth are, immediate accessibility and immediate approval. If I went to my traditional branch, it would take 3 days to get the application, another 2 to 3 days to adjudicate it and answer the question they have, and maybe 4 days to get it approved. That doesn't do me any good today. That's how we're viewing branches. How do we make these channels work together in such a way that we can replicate what's being done by other providers? First off, and I'm going to keep on referencing this, you have to speed up your new account opening experience. We are losing between 40 and 60% of the accounts that people want to open because people abandon their digital shopping cart because it's too hard to open an account. How many of you have an Apple credit card or have opened an Apple credit card? 3 steps. First one, is this stuff about you all right? We can do that for a customer. It's a know your customer. We can validate it by their phone. Second, what are the last 4 digits of your social security number? That is simply to get into the credit bureau. Third, what's your annual income? That's just to waste time by Apple. They already know what the annual income is because they have their credit bureau. And then you have your credit line. That's what people are getting used to more and more. We also have to realize that emerging technologies are changing everything we've known. Not just digital banking, but Gen AI, the way we're doing back office transactions, automation. The ability to provide good services to customers starts not at the branch, not at the front office, but in the back office. If we don't have our back offices in order, it shows at the front office. We have to make the whole process easier. We have to digitize our back office, not by moving paper to PDFs, but by changing the entire process. And you have to have everybody around the table. You have to have branch employees. You have to have compliance. You have to have legal. You have to have the people that are all impacted in order to fix the back office processes. The times I go into my branch today are not about branch complaints. They're about back office problems that branch is simply my easiest access to get listened to. That is not good. I had a situation, it's probably about a year ago now, where I had a transfer from my business account to Acorns. And it didn't go through because I realized it came out of a wrong account, had a low balance, I overdrew the account. I went to the branch, I said, can you reverse the charge? And they said, yes, I'm sorry. I said, the good news is I've already transferred money internally from one of my accounts with you to the account that was deficient. They said, great. Next day, I got another notice of an NSF. Now, being a legacy banker myself, I knew exactly what had happened. I went into the branch, and now, unfortunately, my branch manager and assistant know when I come into their branch, it's not going to be good news. And I'm going to ask them a question, and they're going to have to go, we know, sorry. And in that case, it was the fact that they said, well, Jim, you don't understand. When we do, I said, stop. Let me see if I can tell you what happened. I made my deposit yesterday, but you processed withdrawals before deposits. Therefore, my account was deficient again. The thing I can't understand is how in the world does that happen when it's an internal transfer? I can almost get it if it transfers from another account to yours, because you have to make sure it clears. But if it comes from your account to yours, that doesn't make any sense to me. They go, we know. We can't put people in that position because of our back office flaws. We have to listen to the branch employees and say, what are the things you're hearing and how can we fix them quickly? When we look at overall, as I mentioned, the overall legacy systems that are underlying our branches need updating. The good news is we can do it on a very segmented basis. We don't have to do a rip and replace anymore. So when you're looking at how you want to build your branches going forward, it's important to ask, what are the things that are flaws in the back office that impact the front office? You may get a list. It may be small, it may be large. But as you're building for the future, you have to ask people, how do we make banking better? Because that's what we're all trying to achieve. We're trying to make it so that the branch becomes more of a central role in the overall array of services and channels that we're going to use. We have to also realize that, that the transformation is challenging. How many of you have been in banking for more than 10 years? Okay. So I'm going to tell you, your history, your legacy is good. But you're going to have to do something that's not so much fun, and that is change. You're going to have to look at things in new ways. You're going to have to look at branches in new ways. You're going to have to look at your career in new ways. Change sucks. Why is it that on January 1st, when we make our New Year's resolutions, that 10 days later, more than half of us have stopped going along that path? Because change sucks. You need to embrace change. You have to take risks. You have to do things differently. You have to view things in a different light. You have to do surveys to find out, how do we do banking better? How do we protect the future by using data, insights, conversations, stories, to figure out what the branch future is? Is it big? Is it small? Is it elimination? Is it growth? We all have different paths. And you have to remember your North Star. What are we trying to achieve? What do we want to be known for overall within our brand? And how do we deliver it in the most human channel we have. People don't want the abandonment of the human factor in their digital experience, but they don't want to rely on any one channel. Do I need my branch 2 miles away, or will I accept it 5 miles away? What does the future look like? I can't replicate what Chase is doing. We usually look at Chase and say, oh my God, they keep on building branches. Well, they're also closing branches. And if you look at their strategy for building branches, they're filling in holes where they have a ton of credit card customers or one-service customers. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to cross-sell with humans. Kind of makes sense, because cross-selling digitally is not all that strong. We have to look at our roles and our options in a different way. We have to embrace that change for the future. We have to look at new ways of doing things, using our history, using our experience to our advantage, but not using it as a crutch. I hated it when I went into financial institutions, because I used to sell to financial institutions in the direct marketing days, and I hated when I heard the comment, we've tried it that way and it never worked, or we just don't do it that way. Why? We all get that excuse. You all get that excuse. You may even make that excuse. Don't use compliance as an excuse. Bring compliance to the front of the table and have them involved in the process, because if they are, they're part of the solution, not a challenge. We have to look at the impact today of economic uncertainty. You know, when we look at what's going on today, COVID was a dream compared to what's going on now. Working in different locations sure does seem simple now, as opposed to fighting for budget every second, having to look at interest rates. You know, all of a sudden, after 10 years, ALCO became a thing again, where people actually priced deposits and loans. The consumer's feeling this as well. They want you to know them, understand them, and reward them. They expect you to be better than my dry cleaner, or my Hulu, or the grocery store. They expect you to take what you've learned and apply it. They are confused. I am confused. You are all confused. They want help along their financial journey, their wellness journey. They want you to be the GPS of their financial relationship, to tell them, where do we go next? They don't want to learn that they have an overdraft on their account the day it happened. They don't want rear view mirror. They want that GPS system. The consumer can always override. The consumer can always say, I see it's a red line. I'm going to go through that anyway. I don't think that's really going to be a backup on the traffic. We've all done that. We've all suffered the consequences. But we've also all taken shortcuts to get to where you're going. I want somebody to tell me, how much money do I need for when I retire? How much money should I save for the vacation I want to have next year? How do I get enough money for my son's wedding in September, when we're going, oh my God, talk about something that grows invisibly every day? Because you don't want them to suffer, because that's the beginning of their financial journey. So you say, we'll take on the suffering, only to find out that it was much more than you thought. How can my financial institution help me find ways to solve the problems going forward? The branch is an instrumental part of that, because it's the only human channel we really have. We have to view every challenge out there, and there are 1,000 of them. Most important of which, by the way, when I talk to bankers, the challenge that they say is the most important is, I just don't have time. How do we find those solution providers? They're here today to help me down my journey and take the ball from me. I'm going to use an American analogy, and take the ball from me and run down the field without me having to run along with them. Who do I trust? Who can get me to the finish line the way I want it to be? Who will ask me the questions that will make me a better bank, make me a better banker, make me better branches out there, which, by the way, will not be the same in every market. Get a partner that's going to ask you questions from their errors they've had in the past. We need teamwork. We need composable solutions. We need the kind of partners that are here today that have experienced challenges and are also looking forward for you. I believe everybody in this room is involved in the branch system. You have a role. You've got to be smart in that role, but you can't do it alone. People ask me, how do you keep on top of what's going on in the industry? I said, it's not just me. I'm not the smartest person in the room. The benefit I have, I know who to tap into, who could be the smartest in any category. We need to use these partners whose roles and lives and careers depend on making you better. We also have to look and say, the future now, the evolution is taking place, and it's going to involve technology. It wasn't too long ago that when we built new systems, we'd build them for the branch, then deploy them to online, then deploy them to digital on the mobile app. It's now the exact reverse. We're building the best possible apps for the mobile device to deploy it to online banking, to deploy it to the branches. And in many cases, we have people walking around with iPads basically doing exactly what the consumer do for their own. Why is it that we don't have branches that as soon as the consumer walks in the branch, the employees are all saying, "Hi, Mary. Hi, Jim." How would that feel if you went to a branch and everybody noticed who you were? If you think the people don't want you to know that, talk to Disney. They have handbands. There was a period, and I don't know if it's still going on, where they not only knew where you were going and what you wanted to go to next and the rides you want to go to, and now they connect to your mobile app, but they also knew the names of everybody in the family. If you have a 5-year-old named Johnny, and Johnny goes up to Snow White, a talking character at Disney, and Snow White says, "Hi, Johnny, are you enjoying Disney today?" The kid's eyes get big, they blow up. The parent is going absolutely bonkers, going, "What do they know about me?" Until they look at their child and realize there's a value transfer. That value transfer is, how important was it for Johnny's experience to ramp up to a new level versus me giving away some information? How many of you have Amazon Prime that you're paying $170 a year for? And don't tell me you're doing it for free shipping, because everybody's got free shipping. And don't tell me you're doing it for movies, because very few of you watch movies. Some of you could say, "Well, I'm doing it for sport." No, you're not. We're doing it because it's habit forming and because we have not had Amazon mess up on our behalf. As you can imagine, Amazon does not offer me green, pink, or light blue items in my apparel. They pretty much have me figured out. In fact, everybody has me figured out. But the reality is, because the experience is so strong, because they haven't messed up on the data, you don't break that relationship. And we're paying for a cheaper way to buy things. And in fact, inflated costs recently, we don't even compare costs between going 5 minutes to the grocery store or to the drugstore versus Amazon in most cases. The experience is so good, we pay for that value. Branches are part of that value proposition, a very important part of that value proposition. We have to realize that more than ever, we're looking at data as being the foundation upon all this. We need to collect data, and we not only have to collect it, we have to democratize it. We have to share it. Back in my banking days, if I needed data for a marketing campaign I was doing, I'd have to go to the IT department. They get it to me about 6 months later, when I've already done 3 more programs that were enhancements on the one that I wanted results from. That no longer is the case. However, I would say that we are so cautious, so risk-averse. We don't share the data with our employees on the front line, either in the branches or in the customer care area, enough for them to make decisions on their own or even to be prompted for decisions they should make in a democratized environment. I'll give you an example of what could happen. Our biggest challenge right now is going to be aligning all of our channels. I had an experience with Delta it's about a year ago. I was coming back from Amsterdam, a speaking engagement I had over there, and I had a first world problem. My seat wouldn't go all the way back. And the client had paid for a seat that went all the way back. And I'm going, you hate to complain about it. It's like complaining about Wi-Fi in a plane. You go, have you ever thought about what you're complaining about there? You want the same things you have on Earth in the air. So I asked it, and the first channel was the flight attendants. The flight attendants came and said, "What can we help you with?" I said, "My seat won't go all the way back." And they tried to help me, and they weren't able to help me. And they said, "Tell you what, Mr. Marous, we're going to offer you 3,000 points." Now, any of you who travel at all know that I had a choice probably between 3,000 points and another bag of chips. About the same value transfer. So because the plane did have Wi-Fi, I decided I'm going to go to the Delta chatbot. It asked me a number of questions. It got my situation. It got deep into the conversation. And then it said, "Oh, by the way, we need to finish this when you land." I'm going, well, I kind of would have liked to have known that before. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I land. I'm not at my final place, but at a stopping place, and I communicate with the chatbot, and the chatbot says, oh, no, we don't mean there. We mean your final destination. I'm going, you're just delaying. I see this. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to the mobile app and try to communicate there, typing things in. And they got back to me, asking me the exact same questions, not really coming to a resolution, but they just say, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. You're a good customer of ours. We're going to offer you 10,000 points. I'm going, it didn't feel like they were really listening. They were gathering information, but it didn't look like it was regurgitating back. So I said, well, I'm going to try another way. And I figured I'd just call. And it was not a good time. It was a long wait. I said, okay, now, and I talked to somebody last night about this. At some points, you get a little frustrated by the lack of really being able to ask your question or get your question answered. Then you say, I'm gonna lob the big bomb. So I went to Twitter and said, I have a problem. And that's always the way you get people's attention. At least it gets it off Twitter. So they say, please DM us, we'll solve your problem for you. So I've now gone to 4 channels. Not gotten a resolution, not really gotten any impact from my discussion. Got back home, forgot about the transaction. About a week later, I got a call from Delta. I said, can I help you? I said, yes. Mr. Marous, we're really sorry. We messed up. I'm thinking, okay, that's a pretty cool way to start a conversation. She goes, you had a trip from Amsterdam. Your seat did not go all the way back. You tried multiple channels, including our flight attendants, which I was kind of surprised that they actually record that. And then they said you talked to other channels. We seemed to ask you the same question. We never came to a resolution. We don't think somebody with your amount of flight tenure should have to deal with that. I said, well, thank you. And she goes, you flew recently to here. She made it very clear that she understood me, she knew me, and she was about ready to reward me. At which point she said, would you be willing to accept our refunding of your entire flight from Amsterdam to Cleveland? She goes, it's going to be about $7,000. I could not get off that phone quick enough. Because I thought that's where you start thinking they're going to second guess that decision. I have since connected with Delta and said, by the way, I speak internationally. Your situation with me, if you had not solved it, would have been a footnote in my presentation. It's now a major part of my presentation. I think you're getting value from this. They said, and they came back, they said, your loyalty is the value we wanted. How well do we do that? How well are we today? We're all working on these individual channels. We're working on chatbots to replace tellers or personal communication. How well does the branch know what's happened to the consumer and then they walk in the branch? How good would it be if the teller on the front line or the assistant manager knew you had a challenge a week ago, you got it solved by a chatbot or by a mobile device, and they referenced it? How much more comfortable would the consumer feel if they knew you were on top of what was going on in their relationship? The democratization of data cannot be underestimated or underevaluated, underappreciated. There we go. Because as we share it to the people who are the direct contact people, the humans, we're empowering them. We're making their experience better. We have to think about that. It's not just the customer's experience we have to make better. We have to make the employee experience better, and in turn, they'll make the customer's experience better. We have to look overall and say, do we know how to personalize every transaction? We're talking about it, but we're not doing it. We may know name and address, but do we know their journey? Do we understand what they're trying to achieve when working with you? Do we even understand where else they're going to solve their problems? Do we track flows of funds to determine where do they go to do their banking beyond here? I have a 26-year-old son. He has a regular traditional financial relationship at a traditional bank. They never gave them checks because this was the kind of account he opened. He has never walked into a branch. He knows what his bank is, but basically all of his transactions are done at Venmo and with a credit card. He has a Venmo debit card. If you asked him what's your primary financial relationship, he'd say Venmo, or he'd say his credit card. He's not alone. We can no longer determine, however, How a consumer is going to do their banking based on demographics. Just because he's young doesn't make him more digital. Just because I'm old does not make me less digital. The best way to define who a customer is by the way they transact, the channel or channels they use, how they interact for different things. We need to capture that data to make it so our branches that we build, which are simply, and I don't mean simply with, I mean them with quotes around them, are simply physical structures that house an experience. When you're designing your branch, are you thinking about not just today or yesterday, because most of us are catching up to what we should be, but are we thinking about what the world's going to be like with generative AI? Are we thinking about innovation that can be iterative? Are we building where we can actually scale or change immediately based on market conditions? November of 2022 was the introduction of generative AI. No technology has ever been embraced by the consumer faster, including the iPhone, than generative AI. How many of you have played around with and actually used ChatGPT or another similar process? That's pretty cool. So if I asked that question 5 months ago, we'd have maybe 20% of the people in the audience raising their hand. What we find is that with generative AI, it's the power of the question that drives the answer. If we ask ChatGPT a dumb question, we are going to get a dumb answer. The more you play with it, you can ask them to look at research you've done and said, how would you construct a branch in this world with these things that we've gotten in our research? And at least give you a starting point. Generative AI, if you have not played with it at all yet, is the best educational tool we have available today. Better than Google, better than anything else. You can ask it any question. It's going to at least give you a guidance. Don't put your head in the sand and say, well, yeah, it could make bad answers. That's you to determine. Maybe you have to restructure your question. I do many podcasts every week. I'm saving 2 hours out of every podcast simply by asking ChatGPT and other tools to give me information on the person I'm interviewing, the company they're working for, the subject matter I want to talk about, and to give me 10 questions. They're not all right. It's not all structured right all the time. But because it's a podcast, I make those questions mine. Therefore, it saves me time. It also gives the research so I know the person I'm interviewing. I understand more about their company. I will ask it supplemental questions. But those things I used to do by hand. Used to do them sequentially. It's very difficult. We have to be willing to use these tools going forward. We have to fix, as I said, the back office. You cannot build a good branch system with a broken back office system. Find out what the flaws are, because it's hampering the employees that make your business go. It's hampering the people that will make it so the consumer wants to keep on coming back to a physical structure as part of their interaction. Otherwise, we're building structures that will not have a very long life, at least in certain markets. We have to understand also that as we move forward, the adapting to change is the key to success. I believe with all my heart and soul that if you hold on to the past, you're going to have challenges. I can say that to any industry. I can say it to a group of people on the street. The challenge today is we're all fearful of things that are not the same as they were. And they're changing faster than ever before. We can see it in politics. We can see it in religion. We can see it in everything. People are afraid of the change that's happening around us. We can either accept it or get run over by it. My wife, in a branch discussion, started Bath & Body Works as part of the Limited. She was the first employee for the company. It was part of Express back then, a store within a store. She worked for the company, or she was part of the company for 10 years after that, building branch after branch after branch. She then went on to work for Things Remembered, the trinkets and trash store in the mall. And she was in charge of buying for the store division. While she was there, they said, we need to have a bigger digital presence. She said, okay, I can still buy. I can buy for the... As soon as she went to the digital side of the store, she she became the enemy of everybody who's in the branches. I will keep on referencing the fact that communication is key. As change is happening, we have to communicate with our employees to let them know they're going to be part of the future. Some organizations do it extraordinarily well. So they don't have problems when they have to close a branch, move a branch, build a branch. Others don't do it very well. If a person feels they're going to lose their job because of a change, they will tell your customers every chance they get. Not maliciously, but out of fear. Communication is part of the branch transformation process. We also, as I've mentioned before, it's a human plus digital function. We have to humanize the digital and digitize the human aspects of what's going on. It's the only way we can do it. We bring more digital tools to the branch. I'm not talking about ITMs or anything like that, even though that can be part of the equation. But digital thinking, the ability to identify a consumer when they come into the branch by name because of their phone in their pocket. It may not happen all the time. There may be mistakes made. The consumer's going to understand you're trying. They're going to understand the journey to try to humanize the experience. And I bet you the teller won't make the mistake twice. They'll make the adjustment. There's a lot of power. When we look at generative AI, that is where the power really seems to change a lot. Imagine a time in the not too distant future that we each and every one of our customers have a digital twin in the marketplace. The consumer defines how knowledgeable that digital twin is going to be. But generative AI, instead of simply taking transactions, will reach out and ask consumers questions about their digital journey and will act on those questions. Our target of marketing will be much better. Our use of channels will be much better. And we may rely on a digital twin to make our decisions as to what we do on a daily basis and what transactions we do, how we interact with the bank. I talk about the GPS of financial services. We do have habits. And generative AI is going to learn those habits and give solutions based on those habits. There's nothing that's going to change more than our world with generative AI. Yes, there's going to be mistakes. Yes, there's going to be regulations. Yes, there's going to be challenges. But overall, we're going to be more intelligent, better serviced, and be able to generate more personalized solutions than we've ever had before because of this tool that may simply reside on our mobile phone. Whether or not I use branches is not the big deal. The big deal is how do I want to use them, when do I want to use them, and how do I deploy technology to show empathy? We should be asking our people, how do we show we care as opposed to how fast can we do a transaction? Today's convenience is built on empathy, knowing the customer. That's why Amazon does so well. They humanize the digital experience by thinking on your behalf and saying, based on your habits, it's time to order Advil again. Or balloons. Or when you are starting down a path for some celebration, they give you additional ideas. That's helping you. That's what we all want. We want that empathy. We want the feeling that we're being listened to. Overall, we're now moving from the transfer of money. We as an industry do a terrible job of pricing. We always get to the free. What we have to realize is we're providing a service to consumers every single day. I give a lot of credit to Regions Bank and US Bank that when they did mobile deposit capture, they actually did it whereby they would scale the price based on how fast you would get the money. I don't believe there are very many other organizations in the industry that price the convenience the way we do ATMs. I know if I go to an ATM that's not my financial institution, I'm going to be paying pretty heftily on the transaction. More, by the way, in Vegas than any place else. I guess they just feel that people need money more justly, leave it a bit there. But you'll realize you got $10 fees for a simple transaction. You go, well, that means I got to take out more money because that's less money per dollar I'm taking out. You figure it out in your head really well. But we're moving to a transfer of value, which is really key, which is why you're here, which is why you're going to be visiting solution providers, because they're giving you the value of going forward. You know, when we look at the future, we have to realize that more than ever before, change is happening faster than ever, and it'll never happen this slowly again. The customer wants you to know them, understand them, and reward them for their services in the way you treat them, the way you recognize them, to the integration of data, AI, and technology to drive forward a better experience than they've ever experienced before. However, it's going to take new thinking. It's going to take the ability to look at things in new ways. It's going to take a paradigm shift in the way we've done things in the past and how we'll do them in the future. The question is, are you ready to embrace change? Are you ready to take risks? And are you ready to disrupt yourselves, your organizations, and your brand system so they're ready for the future and more resilient than ever before? Thank you.